Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 2 of Airfix's Avro Lancaster. Scale is 1/72. In part 1 it was introducing the kit. So part 2 is the beginning of the build. And I'm going to be concentrating on the cockpit area of the build to start with. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. The first thing I have to do is drill a hole for the stand. Now also you don't have to do this if you're not using a stand, but this stand that I've got here is an Airfix stand. There's two types of these. There's one with a studded connection point and one with a more larger connecting point. As the larger one I'm going to be using. So first of all, I'm just got my pin drive and making the hole, and this is actually the top part of the bomb bay, so the decking plate as well as the bomb bay roof, and I'm just making some pilot holes before cutting into it to open up for the recess. And once I've done that, I'll just periodically check it to make sure it all fits inside, and as you can see there, it fits in, and that's all I have to do for the stand. But this is the very first thing I have to do. So next is building it up. So the bulkheads are going on first. There's two of these, one for each end. The next is the support beams for the wings, and the end of these beams actually make up the bay for the landing gear as well. The location points on these are such that you can only put them in one way, so there's no chance of getting them mixed up. Moving on to the chair for the cockpit. Now this is a one solid unit that goes onto the base. It just gets cemented directly onto it. So going on to the pilot now, and first of all I should say I painted this in between doing the painting the cockpit chair as well, but I've edited it so that all the pilot will be done first. Cut that together, and then you'll see the chair getting done. It's just so that it's easier to keep it all in one go, but you may see parts of the chair on this little bit already been done, but I am going to go back to that. So I'll just run through the colours that I'm using, and the first colour in the overall colour will be Umbro 96 RAF blue. Next is Umbro 62 leather, and this is for the predominantly the helmet, and then Umbro 61 flesh, and this is obviously for the face and hands. And then I use Umbro 26 khaki, and that's for any of the webbing. And I switched over to Revel 08 matte black for the boots, and lastly Umbro 56 aluminium for the belt buckles. So quite a few colours there for such a small figure, but it is worth doing, I thought, in the end. You do see it quite well inside the cockpit once the canopy is on. So switching back to the seat now, and I'm using Revel Aquacolor 08 matte black, and this is for the side area of the seat. Then moving on to Umbro 62 leather, and this is for the back cushion. And lastly it's Umbro 78 cockpit green, and this is going to be used for all the remaining areas that need to be painted. As you can see, I've moved on to the instrument panel, and the base colour for this is Revel 08 matte black, and the actual stem here that I'm painting, that's the generic 78 cockpit green by Umbro. The foot controls are actually put onto the instrument panel, just the way it's designed, I suppose, the kit itself. There's a little location at the back of the panel for this just to pop into. And once the paint's dry, I can then put on the decals for the instrument panel. There's only about 3 decals in total to place on the interior. There's this one that I'm placing on for the instrument panel. There's a map for the bomber station or navigation station, and there's another side one that has got to be going on, but I'll get to them in a moment. So it's back to the assembly, and first of all is the control stick going in, I always place this in first before the pilot so that I know it's in, and I'm not trying to squeeze it through the pilot's legs. And the pilot is next to go on, and I just thread the control stick between the legs of the pilot for the pilot to sit in. It's quite a nice fit actually. I'm giving everything a base coat of 78 cockpit green. Now I should point out this colour that I'm using, the instructions say for the bottom walkway, yes, use the 78, but then other areas it's saying use black, the matte black. But I've decided to have it all in 78. Whether that's right or not, I'm not sure. So just bear that in mind when you're watching this. I may have got the colour wrong. And once the base colour is dry, I can then add the cockpit, chair and pilot to the base here. There's a couple of location points just for it to slot into. And then I'll add the control panel. Now the instructions say add the control panel before you add the base units together, but I find it easier doing it this way because that way I'm not interfering with it, and of course there's a chance that I may snap it if I catch it wrong. But there is enough room to work this way as well. So next is the base coat for the side part of the fuselage. Also there's a second seat to be painted, which I'm doing now, and that's painted the exact same way as the pilot's seat, so the black walls and the overall 78 cockpit green colour. This is the decal near the rear of the fuselage. Now this is meant to go in later on, but since the paint's dried, I want to place it in and get that dry before I carry on with that part of the build. And while I've got the decal solution out, I'm placing on the remaining decals for the cockpit area, which was the map and the control panels that go on the side wall. And as I'm going along, I'm just touching up the paint. I'm adding some detailing. So I'm using the black here just to highlight areas within the cockpit. I'm using Revit Aquacolor 90 here, and this is just for some dials and buttons. Again, just so they can stand out. Not necessarily the correct colour, but these colours are the best ones to use for the area to stand out once everything's closed up. Because you won't get to see a lot of this detail anyway, but you'll see some of it. Then once everything's dry, I give it a metal finish. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking some of the silver paint, taking away the majority of the excess off the brush, then just running the brush along the areas. Any raised areas will then catch the silver colour, and that just highlights everything up. You can do this with washes and things like that. I prefer it to do it this way. It's just like dry brushing, really, and it just gives it a little bit of a metal shine to it to make it look more like metal, especially when you're using matte colours. It's quite a good technique to use if you haven't got any washers, and I would recommend it. And it's easy to master. It doesn't take a great deal of skill. Just use an old brush when you're doing it, because you can ruin your brush. And this is build in part 2. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? If you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date with this build and of course any future builds I do. Hit that like button. Don't forget to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.